What happens when the school's biggest bully pushes too far? Sometimes the quietest girl in class is hiding the most dangerous secret. This is the story of Annabelle, a young black girl who everyone thought was weak. They were all wrong. The cold January wind sliced through Detroit like ice. Annabelle Williams pulled her old coat tight as she walked toward Roosevelt High for the first time. The huge brick building looked dark against the cloudy Michigan sky. Students rushed through the doors, laughing and talking in groups that seemed impossible to join. Annabelle checked her phone. 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes to find her locker and figure out where to hide during lunch. This wasn't her first new school. In 3 years, she'd been to schools in Chicago, Memphis, and now Detroit. Each time hopping, she could just disappear. Her mother's nonprofit job meant they moved constantly, chasing funding across the country. "Just keep your head down, baby," her mother had said that morning, gently fixing Annabelle's natural hair. Detroit could be permanent. Annabelle wanted to believe it, but she'd learned not to hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope made you weak. The first week passed like a careful dance. Annabelle perfected being invisible. She sat in back corners, ate lunch alone with a book, walked through hallways like she had somewhere important to go when really she was going nowhere at all. Her teachers seemed kind. Mrs. Thompson in literature smiled when she saw Annabelle reading during lunch. Mr. Jackson in chemistry nodded when she solved a hard equation, but teacher kindness wasn't the same as student acceptance. By Friday, she let herself relax a little. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe she could graduate in peace. She should have known better. Savannah Mitchell had ruled Roosevelt High since sophomore year. At 17, she had the kind of confidence that came from never hearing the word no. She wasn't just popular, she controlled everything. Who got invited to parties, who got excluded from projects, who became the target of whispers that destroyed reputations overnight. Her father was a prominent Detroit businessman. Her mother sat on the school board, and Savannah knew that power wasn't about money, it was about knowing how to use it. Her crew included 3 loyal followers: Emily, a blonde girl who laughed too loud at everything; Tyler, a football player who craved social status; and Jessica, who always knew everyone's secrets. Teachers either didn't notice or chose not to see. After all, Savannah's mother Asterisk did control the school board. Savannah's real talent was reading people. She could spot weakness like a predator smelling blood. When she noticed Annabelle during the second week, her instincts activated immediately. Everything about the new girl screamed victim. The downcast eyes, the neutral expression worn like armor, the isolation wrapped around her like a shield. What Savannah couldn't see was that Annabelle's invisibility wasn't weakness. It was strategy. The first attack. It happened on a Thursday during lunch. Annabelle was reading while walking and bumped into Savannah's designer purse. It tumbled to the floor, spilling lip gloss, car keys, and cash across the cafeteria tiles. The entire cafeteria went silent. 300 students became instant witnesses. "I'm so sorry," Annabelle whispered, dropping to her knees to collect everything. Savannah stood perfectly still, calculating. This was the opportunity she lived for. A public stage, a clear victim, and an audience hungry for drama. "Are you serious?" Savannah's voice cut through the silence like a knife. "Do you not know how to walk?" Annabelle kept collecting items, hands trembling. She knew this script. Apologize, accept the humiliation, pray it ends quickly. "Maybe if you weren't so busy hiding behind that nappy hair and those thrift store clothes, you'd actually see where you're going," Savannah continued, voice rising. "Don't they teach Asterisk, your kind Asterisk, how to act in public?" The racist comment landed like a punch. Several students gasped, others looked away, but nobody spoke up. Nobody ever did. Annabelle's hands froze. Savannah's words echoed alongside similar comments from bullies in Chicago, Memphis, and countless other places. "What's wrong?" Savannah taunted, stepping closer. "Cat got your tongue, or maybe that's just how your people are, too stupid to speak up." More laughter, more phones recording, more humiliation piling on. But as she knelt there, something shifted inside Annabelle. Something dark and patient and calculating. Savannah Mitchell had just made the biggest mistake of her life. After that Thursday, Annabelle became Savannah's favorite project. The harassment followed her everywhere. Racist comments whispered just loud enough to hear. "Go back where you came from. Maybe straighten that nappy hair. Your kind doesn't belong here." Books knocked from her hands, her chair mysteriously disappearing. Chocolate milk poured in her backpack, ruining textbooks and homework. The lunch tray incidents became regular. Twice a week, Annabelle wore her lunch after accidental collisions. She started keeping extra clothes in her locker. But the worst part was everyone's complicity. Teachers ignored it. "Girls will be girls," Mrs. Henderson said when Annabelle mentioned the bullying. Students watched like it was entertainment, grateful it wasn't happening to them. "Why don't you fight back?" Ashley Rodriguez asked one day after a brutal hallway encounter. Annabelle just shrugged. How could she explain? She wasn't scared of Savannah. She was scared of what would happen if she stopped pretending to be weak. What Savannah didn't realize was that she wasn't breaking Annabelle down. She was building her up. Every cruel word, every humiliation, every racist attack added fuel to a fire that had been burning for 3 years. And when that fire erupted, it would consume everything. The final straw came on a Tuesday in early December. Snow fell outside and hallways buzzed with pre-winter break energy. Annabelle was walking to chemistry when laughter erupted behind her. Someone had taped a sign to her back. "Go back to Africa" in large red letters. The racist message was impossible to ignore. Annabelle peeled it off with shaking hands while Savannah watched from across the hall, smirking. But this time, instead of hurrying away, Annabelle looked up. She walked directly to Savannah, the crumpled sign still in her hand. "You should stop," Annabelle said quietly. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." For just a moment, Savannah's smirk faltered. Something in Annabelle's voice didn't match the helpless victim she'd been tormenting. But the moment passed, Savannah burst out laughing. "Oh wow, the little mouse found her voice. What are you going to do? Call the NAACP?" The crowd laughed. Phones recorded what everyone assumed would be another humiliation. But Annabelle wasn't laughing. She wasn't crying. She wasn't even angry, at least not in any way Savannah could recognize. If Savannah had been smarter, she might have noticed the calculation behind those quiet eyes, the patient fury of someone who had endured too much for too long. This wasn't a threat, it was a promise. The revenge began at 3:17 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. While Savannah slept peacefully, Annabelle sat in her bedroom, laptop open, surrounded by notebooks filled with 3 months of careful observations. She had been preparing since that first cafeteria day, documenting every cruel comment, every attack. But more than that, she'd been studying Savannah, learning her patterns, her weaknesses, her carefully constructed empire. Annabelle had discovered something important. When people think you're powerless, they stop being careful. They say things they shouldn't, reveal secrets they should keep hidden. She knew about Savannah's fake charity fundraiser that raised $3,000 for underprivileged kids, money that paid for her spring break to Cancun. She knew about the essay Savannah bought online that earned her recognition as Roosevelt High's most promising writer. She knew about Savannah's systematic harassment of a dozen students over 3 years, students who transferred rather than endure the torture. Most importantly, she knew that Savannah's protection came from her father's donations to the school's athletic programs. But understanding the system was only step one. Dismantling it required precision, timing, and patience. Annabelle's fingers moved across her keyboard with steady purpose. At 3:30 a.m., She uploaded a carefully edited compilation of videos showing Savannah's racist comments, bullying behavior, and casual cruelty. Videos that Savannah's own friends had posted to social media. She uploaded simultaneously to 12 platforms using anonymous accounts created months earlier. She tagged local news stations, civil rights organizations, and Detroit's most prominent social media influencers. She added subtitles, making Savannah's racist comments impossible to ignore. By dawn, the video had 10,000 views. By noon, 50,000. By the time Savannah walked into Roosevelt High that Wednesday, it had gone viral across Detroit. But Annabelle was just getting started. Savannah's first clue came when she noticed the whispers. Not admiration, something dangerous. Students stared at phones, looked at her, quickly looked away. By second period, Savannah knew something was wrong. Teachers looked at her differently. Students pointed. Her phone buzzed constantly with notifications she was afraid to check. During lunch, she finally watched the video destroying her reputation. There she was making racist comments about Annabelle's hair, laughing while friends poured milk on homework, holding up the "Go Back to Africa" sign with a satisfied smirk. Watching herself through outside eyes, Savannah finally understood how cruel she looked. But the video was only the beginning. At 2:15 p.m., the school's intercom crackled to life. Annabelle's voice filled every classroom. "My name is Annabelle Williams. For 3 months, I've been the target of systematic racist harassment by Savannah Mitchell. I've documented everything. I tried handling this quietly, but adults at this school repeatedly failed to help. So now I'm addressing it myself." Teachers scrambled to turn off speakers, but the announcement played through the main system beyond their control. Savannah Mitchell has spent 3 years making life miserable for students she considers beneath her. She's used racist language, engaged in harassment, and driven multiple students to transfer. She's done this with permission from adults who looked away rather than confront the daughter of wealthy donors. Every screen in the school lit up with comprehensive documentation of Savannah Mitchell's reign of terror. Savannah didn't return to school. By Friday, rumors flew like wildfire. Some said her parents pulled her out in shame. Others whispered she was too humiliated to show her face. The truth was more complex. Savannah's father's business faced scrutiny after the video went viral. Clients didn't want associations with a documented racist. Savannah's mother quietly resigned from the school board. The family's social standing crumbled overnight. Within 2 weeks, the Mitchell family relocated entirely, leaving Detroit for a fresh start elsewhere. Annabelle sat at her usual lunch table, alone but no longer invisible. Students who'd watched her harassment in silence now nodded respectfully. A few even apologized, awkward and ashamed. But Annabelle didn't need apologies. She'd orchestrated Savannah's downfall to survive, to reclaim her dignity, and to send a message that would echo through Roosevelt High long after graduation. The quiet ones aren't always weak. Sometimes they're just waiting, watching, planning, and when they finally move, they reshape everything. Roosevelt High changed after Savannah's exile. Students thought twice before choosing targets. Teachers paid closer attention. The administration implemented new policies that might actually be enforced. Annabelle finished senior year quietly, graduated with honors, and earned a full scholarship to study computer science at Wayne State University. On graduation day, walking across the stage, Annabelle allowed herself a small smile. She'd survived. She'd exposed a system of cruelty. She'd proven that silence isn't weakness, sometimes it's strategy. Years later, working as a cybersecurity specialist in Chicago, Annabelle would think about Roosevelt High. The story of how the quiet black girl took down the school's most feared bully became legend, passed through subsequent classes like a cautionary tale. Students still talked about pulling an Annabelle, appearing weak while gathering strength, quietly preparing to fight back against injustice. The moral became part of Roosevelt High's culture. Never underestimate the quiet ones. You never know what storms they're hiding, what strategies they're developing, what justice they're preparing to unleash. Because sometimes the person everyone ignores sees everything. Sometimes the victim everyone overlooks changes everything. And sometimes the girl who seems powerless is actually the most dangerous person in the room. Have you ever been underestimated? The people we overlook often end up changing everything. In a world rewarding loud voices and aggressive personalities, we forget that true power sometimes moves quietly, patiently, with devastating precision. Annabelle's story reminds us that strength comes in many forms. Justice doesn't always wear a cape, and the most profound changes often begin with people who seem to have no power at all.